officially start.
Okay.
Okay. I am back.
Yes. Okay, sweet.
I would. Well, fuck. I need to grab my glasses. Okay. I am back a second time. I have my glasses. Alrighty. I got a text message. Technically, are supposed to start in like 1 minute. Just making sure everything is up and running.
You're good.
but I really want chocolate for some reason. Do you need to go check on your chili?
Nope.
Okay. It is 7 now.
Sweet.
Normally I'd do like a big introduction, be like, "Hi everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel." But most people watching this are already people part of my channel. What is... Oh, I need to not be eating. What is up, Katie Horton? Oh, Strawberry should send San Garia. I'm not going to pronounce his name. Strawberry, hello, it's going great. How are all of you guys doing today? I am currently here with my co-host, Marching Knight.
Hello.
He is an ex-Christian, still theist though. Something like that.
I'm a sure. Close
Okay.
enough, I guess. I don't know. Something like that.
It's very cold here. You are telling me it is currently where I'm living right now. It's currently -4 with a wind chill of -1. So it sucks. I went outside for a small walk, and like the coat I had didn't have a hood on it, so like I almost got frostbite. It was horrible. Icy snow and windy here in Oregon. How am I doing? So far I'm doing great. I'm really glad I get to live stream today. I wanted to make sure I get this out before my classes start again. Gives me some good clips to upload to YouTube, so people who weren't able to participate in the live can watch or can come back and rewatch some things. I get a lot of people in the comments always telling me whenever we are, they always tell me that they come back and they watch the live streams, and I'm like, that's great. They come back and watch the live streams, and crap, my brain just pooped itself.
They have questions?
They come back and watch the live streams, and they kind of they have their own questions, and sometimes they just want to like get specific details, so I try to cut that stuff so that they can watch, the bigger parts of the live stream without watching the entire thing to get information.
I'm surprised they're not doing the thing that all the other YouTubers do, be like and subscribe, all that stuff.
I could start doing that. I feel like I'd be a little scummy though. I feel like I'd be borderline Christian, whatchamacallit. Thank you for the compliment on the background.
Is it like a Christian thing to ask to like and subscribe?
It gives prosperity gospel vibes, like this video if you love Jesus. Like I start being like this video if you love Anubis. Like this video if you want Anubis to change the world. Like I feel like I'm just borderline like Christian content creator there.
How about you just turn it the other way and be like
and subscribe if you hate Christianity.
I guess.
I'd like to not my TikTok account may not be very pro-Christian, but I would prefer this to be a pro any religion type of live stream. Also, 19 with a wind chill of -5. I am not sure who has it worse, in all honesty. Because that sucks.
Maybe you should just go like and subscribe if you're not Christian. There you go. You don't have to say if you dislike Christian. Say if you're not.
Hit that like button with your favorite onk. Okay, I kind of like that idea. Make sure you guys hit that like button with your favorite onk. Just try not to break your mouse while trying. And don't hit it on the computer screen. Use your mouse and move it and then click. Bless the like button.
I don't know about, this isn't tech support here. We're not telling people. Okay, whatever.
Hey, who says it's not a we're not a tech support live stream. We're a spiritual live stream, so we kind of help people in a different way. Oh, you guys, it sucks, but so far the power is staying on. Yeah, I think I don't know where in the United States, but like a whole state is without power due to the winter vortex.
That's crazy.
I'm kind of excited for winter just because with college, like half my classes are going to be canceled most of the time, so it's just going to be like, oh, thank you for the like, by the way, Katie. I appreciate it. So it's just going to be like a lot easier for me not to have to stress so much. You know what I do have to stress about? I have like 3 videos in rough draft right now that I was going to upload on my YouTube channel, and I have not finished any of them. Because on the last live stream, somebody had asked me about the forming of new gods, and like a lot of people are talking about like new gods are... This is an advertisement. It has ruined everything. We're talking about like new gods forming and stuff, and we got onto the topic of religion and psychosis, or religion and delusions, and I brought up how the mind can kind of get twisted due to religious delusions, and what causes them, or the mind can get twisted from spiritual encounters and what causes them. And I wanted to do a more extended video on it, and I got the rough draft, but like the rough draft was like 16 minutes long, and it's like I want to kind of condense it down to a shorter video because people don't have an attention span to watch a whole 16-minute video.
I mean,
what's your guys' thoughts, and what's your thoughts on religion and psychosis, Marching?
So I'll be honest, I did see your psychosis video. I did not actually watch it. I'm sorry.
Thank you for your honesty. At least you didn't lie to me.
I didn't. It was just in awkward times. I wanted to watch it at some point. Can you give me like a brief recap or summary, I guess?
Yes, I will give a recap just in case those who didn't watch the clip. So the argument I said was that Strawberry says, at least one of those gods is Wi-Fi based. Coffee gods too.
Starbucks god.
Oh my gosh, the goddess, like the Starbucks goddess. You have a Wi-Fi goddess, like the god of the internet. You know, honestly, I think that's not too far out of something that that doesn't seem too far out of the picture, but that'd be kind of funny watching like a god of Starbucks. It's like all the white girls and their blonde hair pray to this thing. But to some...
They're like druids, but instead of just like meandering around, trees and stuff, they're sitting on luxury couches and chairs and writing books and just ordering like 5 coffees throughout the entire day.
Hello, Demi Man. Our friend Katie has said, I've had psychosis where I had a birth control implement in my arm and thought it was aliens and tried to get it out. Ooh, it's scary stuff. Oh my.
That's out of a horror movie. That's terrifying.
Yeah, and psychosis can definitely do that. Before I address Strawberry's absolutely hilarious comment. But when I made the clip of the religion and psychosis video, I discussed that the reason religious delusions happen is because when people have a spiritual encounter, they don't really comprehend what it is. So their brain kind of tries to comprehend it. I used an example like, the big thing with psychosis is like you might think everything is a sign. And when I had psychosis, it was like excuse me, when I had psychosis, it was like I would see a bird and then I'd see another bird and I would like instantly look up, what do those birds mean? And then I would see like the bird is a symbolism of death. And I'd be like, oh no, this is Anubis telling me I'm going to die. Like, I remember I was with Matt, my old boss or coworker, and I heard a whippoorwill and I like start freaking out in his car saying that it's a sign my grandma's going to die. And that's because whippoorwills were associated with death. So I like instantly started like almost crying. I'm like, my grandma's gonna die. I knew it. I knew this. These were all the signs all along. But that's kind of like what psychosis does. You know, you start to think everything is a sign, and it's weird because gods do leave signs, but it's like it's super hard to tell when it is, and it kind of leads that delusion of, well, a god exists or these gods exist, so they're leaving me a sign, or is this a sign and this a sign, because your brain can't comprehend how a god actually works, and it starts to kind of fill in those gaps with delusions. And I said this in the video that I was working on, that it's really important that you know you have psychosis, because when you know you have psychosis, it makes working with the gods easier, because it allows you to be able to know when it is actually a god, to know what the gods do when they do leave you a sign, and it prevents that, like, Anubis doesn't normally send birds. So you don't have to, if you see a bird, if you ask him for a sign and he sends you a bird, you see a bird, it's obviously not a sign from Anubis. And also, understanding the divine more will help clear up that psychosis. Like, gods don't normally give you signs unless, like, you ask. So that's kind of like what I covered in that whole clip, dealing with how religion can spark psychosis, and why a lot of people who start very heavy spiritual practices develop it, and why they really need to learn what psychosis actually looks like, so that they don't keep working, or they don't keep working with nothing.
Okay, that was a lot to unpack, for sure. Drink some water after my awkward squeaking.
But Strawberry Sangreen said, Starbucks, huh? Ishtar looking a little different these days.
We already got a question. Do you know anything about Sekhmet? Sounds like an Egyptian god. I think you're better well equipped to handle
Oh
this.
my goodness, Sekhmet. I've had the second goddess I was about to work with was Sekhmet, and I didn't understand how working with gods worked, so I kind of like rejected her. I don't even know if she really was reaching out to me. I was very vulnerable at the time. But Sekhmet, I've had a very few encounters with. If you need to know if Sekhmet is reaching out to you, cats, like, it's cats. I remember I knew it. I had a dream once that I knew was Sekhmet, because despite the dream having nothing to do with cats, all I heard was obsessive meowing. That's a sign of Sekhmet. That's how you'll know Sekhmet is trying to work with you. If you hear meowing, if you see cats being very attached to you, the cat distribution system is, I hear, a bit of a joke. I don't think necessarily finding a cat is a sign Sekhmet wants to work with you, but cats being very attached to you in different ways than cats normally are is a sign. If you have a cat and the cat is like running around a lot and like looks like it's playing, that is a sign of Sekhmet. From experience, I've had my old cat Pepper back at my other grandma's house start running around and playing with my other cat. Was just running around and going crazy, and it looked like it was like chasing, or it looked like it was being chased, and then it was chasing something. That right there, if that ever happens, that's just Sekhmet trying to reach out to you. And sometimes she'll reach out if you're really struggling with like like you're struggling with your feminine side, or you're struggling with breakups or heartbreaks or love, those are things Sekhmet will reach out to you with. There's Basset too. Basset and Sekhmet, supposedly they're the same deity, but like different names depending on the Egyptian mythology. It's Egyptian mythology I will always hate because it's confusing. But you also grow a real fascinating taste of wine. That's another thing Sekhmet is associated with. In terms of what she can offer you, like I said, really good if you need to be more in touch with your feminine side. Really good if you need to, you need assistance with specific protection. Gosh dang it, advertisements ruin everything. Really great if you need protection. Really great if you need assistance with helping with your feminine side. And sometimes if you have trouble with anger, she's kind of someone else that you can kind of reach to, because that's kind of part of her lore. I don't know too much about Sekhmet, unfortunately, because I don't work with her pretty frequently, but she's only shown up in a few dreams to kind of remind me that I am worth it, and that I should not beat myself up. So that's all I know about her. Is there a way to actually see her? I'd like to work with her, and I see cats all the time. No. It's... Okay. Time for another thing I need to debunk. You will never actually see your god. A lot of I'm sorry. A lot of pagans claim things like, I travel the astral planes with Loki every night, or like Hades told me I'm prettier than Aphrodite, but that's not true. There's a reason you don't see gods or their true forms, because they're practically impossible to comprehend. And I think, Marching, you remember there was a Greek story that even talked about a woman who saw Zeus and exploded.
Yes, that is a story in Greek mythology. You're right.
And
you can
sorry,
you
keep
can
going.
yeah, you can also just say that anybody who does say that they saw God just has main character syndrome.
Yeah,
There you go.
but you will not see your deity. You will not see your god physically. I have seen bits of Anubis's true form, and I can tell you, I have a whole video on why you can't see your gods, and I have seen Anubis's a bit of his true form, and it was so difficult to comprehend that like my brain can't remember it. And my brain has trouble processing it. Like, I've seen Anubis a few times in a dream, and his tone of black is so black, like it's beyond a human comprehension. I called it like true black because it was such a deep color. So you're never going to see your god. You will just feel your god, essentially. And that's something I can't tell you what a god will feel like, because you might perceive their energy different. So I hope that answers your question a bit.
How off the rails do you want this to go?
Do you have any other comments? I do know someone asked if I know anything about Horus. But what, do you want to add something to that?
What if you take shrooms?
I think
Or
you're going to be
drugs?
seeing a lot more than just your god at that point. You're going to pull a BoJack Horseman there.
Oof. Okay.
Somebody says, strawberry, it's hell, and I'm on bipolar medication now, but I don't hear things and see shadow people before a psych break. Thankfully, I'm more aware of the symptoms. See, and that right there, Katie, is very important, because when you are aware of the symptoms, you can feel like you'll work with your deities better, because your like ego, your shadows are not going to be like being reflected on deities or your gods anymore. And that's what I've especially learned. know anything about God Horus?
Oh boy.
Oh boy, yeah, there's a lot with Horus. Horus is Horus is a weird deity because his origins are very questionable because like the earliest Egyptian mythology he did not exist. In late Egyptian mythology he was quite literally just Ra. And in some versions of the mythology, this is really weird. The goddess Isis births Ra, which is Horus, and then Horus or Ra creates the universe. I don't actually know how that works. I don't really know what Horus. I know Horus exists because I've seen him in dreams, but the actual origins of what might have caused him to be begotten, I don't think have an answer because the mythology is not consistent with him. Horus, though, hard for me to answer because
Should I intervene?
do you have something?
Well, yeah, Horus is kind of similar, and at least in Christianity sense, you have the Trinity, and there's supposed to be, and yes, it's an extremely confusing idea, that nobody really knows what it's supposed to be because there's supposed to be like one God,
Mm-hmm.
but then you have like God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit.
And then you have that confusing situation where it's like Jesus is God, but not actually the Father, or that they're literally the
He's
same
the Son
thing.
of
And
God. Yeah,
yeah,
the Son
but
of
and
God, but
also
also
God. Yeah,
God in the body. Yeah,
the confusing.
yeah. It is. It absolutely um makes no sense, and sometimes it doesn't have to make sense for people to just be like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Anyway, um, the basically it's similar to Horus would be like God the Son, Ra would be like God the Father, and
Mm-hmm.
so to speak. So they both Ra is going to be the entity that represents something like um, tradition and order, and Horus or God the Son or Jesus, they're kind of like the newer, um, I guess slightly more chaotic in a sense, in that they're ushering in something that's new,
Mm-hmm.
something that isn't ancient, something that you can actually use.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so yeah, he Horus is kind of the being that is well, conscious, is perceiving, um right, because of the eye of the Horus, he has to
Let
take
me
out
interject real quick here. Because with Horus and Ra, there was this weird
story.
thing. Well, there was a story, not even
uh,
really a story. It's weird. So on the Ankh, if many people I know have an Ankh here, on the Ankh, you'll notice that sometimes the eye is right and sometimes the eye is left. If I remember correctly, the right eye is Ra, which is masculinity, domination, anger, aggression, and there was other things with it that wasn't like anger, aggression. It was like the yin and yang essentially. It was like the Egyptian version of yin and yang. You had masculine, and then Horus was feminine. So it would be like femininity, sadness, perseverance that were associated with those two beings. So it kind of does. It's like a trinity, but more of just a line, really, because there's no Holy Spirit. Hindus had that other concept, but that's a topic for a different time. But with Horus specifically, that's like I said, the origins of Horus are very unknown. But with Horus, if you Horus is a leader, and he is a god that likes to show people how to be the leader. And he kind of tries to, from my own experience, tries to show you the different sides of everything, like a true leader should. Not a leader that wants to dominate and destroy, but a leader who wants to sympathize and understand. That is what Horus's goal, from what I've worked with, the bits that I have in my shadow work, that's what I've experienced. Now, I don't personally have a lot of experiences with Horus. One thing, if you need to know if he's reaching out to you, do you see a hawk in your dreams? But I've always noticed that the hawks are incredibly friendly, and sometimes will like spread their wings and let you pet them. That's a sign of Horus. That's kind of like a hawks are very, very like selfish creatures. So for them to find comfort to you, to me, is like, that's kind of what a leader should do. A leader needs to lead, but he needs to feel submissive and comforting around his citizens so that they can relate to him better. So that's a sign of, you need to know Horus is reaching out to you. Seeing hawks in specific ways. Like if you see a hawk looking at you, if you see a hawk on a billboard or on a actual road sign, those can be signs of Horus. Also keep in mind that if you see a hawk on a road sign and you don't feel anything, it's not a sign. That's just how signs work. If you don't feel anything, it's not a sign. Don't beat yourself up. You'll know if you'll feel something, because your whole body will light up. You'll know when you know. But in terms of what Horus fully offers, I only worked with him on how to be a better leader and better relate with people. That's what Horus has helped me with. So other people who have more experience with Horus can point you in a better direction. I only really work with 3 deities at the moment, so like main patron deities. So there's very little in terms of all the gods I can work with, and I'm a college student, so as if I have the money to buy more altars. Really got to catch up on these comments. Katie says, Basset is really cool for protection and helps with your animal abilities and communication. Absolutely, she does. Demi-Man, I think I've seen Segment, but I think I'm currently going insane. So I might not be a sort of Segment likes warm colors in artwork of them. Well, almost all gods do. I used to say things like that too, Katie. Gore, I wish you the best in medication. Someone asks, have you ever had a spirit pretend to be a god towards you? Yes. Succubuses are great. Or not succubuses. Incubuses are great with that. Really hate incubuses. They like to disguise themselves as essentially anything just to make you feel bad. You can technically consider the demiurge not an actual god. So you can have like an encounter with the demiurge telling you to worship him. But I've only had a very few encounters with that.
Never had a dream like that before, but okay.
Spirit, and Katie says that had no spirits pretending to be friendly. Spirits, it depends on what you work with. Depends on how you define them. There's like 3 different kinds of spirits, really. There's you can probably, if you can chime in with this marching, there's 3 kinds of spirits. There's things that have ascended, that would be like gods, or I'm going to call them angels, but they have a more official name, which are basically just people who kind of govern over the order of the universe. They probably work with Seth. And then you have souls. Souls are spirits. They're ancestors. Ancestors are kind of slightly higher, but not like, I wouldn't put them on the same level as angels, although they might be. Souls are just consciousness and personality. Then you have demons, but there's many different kinds, and demons are souls that are on a lower vibrational frequency, and they act off of emotions. When someone dies and their soul comes out and they are not ready to move on, the soul inverts and then it becomes a demon. If a soul is left holding on to something, it inevitably will invert itself and become demonic, in which it only acts off of emotions. This is why we see spirits that particularly are always embodying one exact emotion, like spirits who sit in a corner and cry, spirits who are very angry and slam doors, spirits who are aggressive and keep trying to hurt you or harm you, spirits that are very motherly like. Different kinds of emotions embody the spirits embody. And because of that, they effectively kind of just, they get left stuck. The only way to help them is to help them overcome why they're stuck by figuring out what's keeping them held down here. But I think that's also that there's like a middle ground where there's spirits that are conscious enough to know that they're not moving on, like they don't want to move on, so they invert and become something ugly, like an oni or a yokai, or a like spirits who really don't let go become a yokai. You can also create different kinds of low vibrational frequency spirits like shadows. Shadow people are born from us. They're not born of anything original. They come from insecurities, and they oftentimes reflect our own insecurities. So that's kind of like the middle ground. I should really just draw that out so people can better understand what that looks like.
You know, it's funny you say that because not too long ago,
Thanks for the likes, everybody.
I live in the upstairs, like an upstairs apartment,
Mm-hmm.
and there's these inside, like going downstairs. Sometimes it's really weird. Our light switch is like in the first part when you go downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it's always dark when you look down there. And one time, I looked down the stairs. I was just turning off the light, looked down the stairs, and I saw like a shadow figure. But here's the thing: it wasn't like a spooky, scary shadow figure. I literally saw like, do you know the figures they have for just like generic like signs, like crossing a walkway?
Yeah.
I saw a shadow figure that looked like just that super generic, like dot for a head, and then wasn't even like connected to the rest of its body, and its body was just its normal, just standing there. And I saw it for like a second, was like, what did I just see? Looked back, wasn't there anymore. I'm like, okay, whatever. Just super random.
Well, let me ask you, Marching, do you sometimes feel like your life is a bit too generic? Do you feel like what you're doing with your life may not be enough or fully what you're wanting to do?
Well, I wanted to go ahead and make more music for sure, because I do like making music, but I haven't done a lot. But I just have like so many video games that I have, which I'm like, great, I need to go ahead and play them, and I just need to, yeah.
What kind of ambitions do you have in your life? Or do you really like to be just a dad that works his 9 to 5 and supports his family?
Yeah, that.
That's what you want?
Yeah, that and like, the occasional vacation, traveling, hang out with friends.
Are you sure?
Yeah, very sure.
Okay, I'll take your word on it.
Okay. Cool.
Let's see. My parents had oh my gosh, why do these ads have to ruin everything for us? Okay, let's see. My parents, they weren't spirits, that's worrying. Katie says, my parents' home had a spirit of a cowboy that I thought was nice. He was evil one night. I got tired of him tormenting me, before I moved out, so I got rid of him through prayer. I kind of find that interesting, and it's gonna be a little funny. That samurais are effectively, or cowboys are literally just Western version of samurais. They fundamentally did the same thing. They were outlaws. They were either outlaws and thieves. They were the sheriffs. They were the protectors. They had specific families that they kept in very close contact with. You compare samurai culture, not the shogun, with cowboys, and they're the same exact thing.
I was about to correct you with
Yeah, I had
with
to.
the certain part.
Yeah,
I was like,
I had to point out. Well, even then, there were plenty of cowboy bandits that are plenty of cowboys that were just as oppressive and were literally just looking to abuse power, like the shogun did. But
okay, but like generically speaking, though, when you think of a samurai, you think of somebody who's like was part of that, you know, Japanese old government, and
mhm.
then when you think of like a rebel, then you think of a ninja, just very generically speaking.
Yeah, I can see that. And I guess we didn't have Western versions of ninjas. I guess those were just our bandits. But um, it's funny because there's a lot of Japanese mythologies around like super deadly samurai or super powerful samurai, and I always wondered, I'm like, why don't we have any mythologies about cowboy spirits that did similar things? We do, unironically. They're super hard to find. We have very few stories, and most of them come from or come with collisions with Native American ideas. But um, when you point out that you had an evil cowboy, it just reminds me of like people saying about like the very deadly evil samurai shogun spirits that exist, and it's just like it's the same thing. It's the cowboy spirit that doesn't leave. Um, Denaman said, "When you say a deity helped you, what do you mean by that? Did they put you in certain situations you wouldn't normally experience, or what do you mean?" Um, it's a mixture of all of those things, but fully going through with fully understanding if it's a sign or not is again hard. Um, I have had Seth on a very many occasions. I always say this about Seth. He is the type of God who throws you into the water full of sharks and he says, swim out. You can find your way. Seth does that. The first time I met Seth was literally during a tornado where I was panicking. Um, and it was like a semblance of, watch your emotions so they don't turn out like a spiraling tornado. Because that was when I was really dealing with mental problems. But Seth specifically is a god that will do stuff like that. Seth used to do this thing where he would also show up in dreams and he would just stare at me. And Seth, every time I'd look at him, he has no face. He never has a face. And it's so, like, your mind physically can't comprehend what it's looking at. But it's like a clear depiction of that you're looking at something, but you cannot comprehend what it is. And he would also throw, like, different creepy nightmares at me. But he would have me stop them to show me that I was in control. So it's something that Seth would do. So yes, they will put you in situations where they're going to show you, if you mess the situation up, it's a reminder of what you can do better. They'll never throw a situation where you're going to die. If they throw a situation in which you are having to, in which you succeed, it is a sign of your growth. They will throw you in situations. They will never, unless you specifically ask, they will never like give you the tools to fix a situation. No, let me rephrase that. They will give you the tools to fix a situation, but unless you specifically ask, they will never fix the situation for you. Sometimes they will push you away from someone if like they'll warn you like this person is bad. You'll feel like compelled to not be around that person, and you'll feel it, but it'll be up to you if you go through with that kind of stuff. They'll never fix a solution. They just kind of give you assistance. And I've noticed that the more aware you become, the less your deities actually intervene in things, because you already know how to properly handle these situations. So that's kind of what I mean by help.
I guess demons aren't the cuddly, loving type. Yeah, that I don't think they are normally.
Well, it depends. I mean, there's plenty of people who I've seen who have like intimate relationships with succubuses and incubuses. And I know some people who are like God spouse to literal demons that aren't just emotionals. They're like they are the in between. Onis from Japanese mythology are very, very like mixed in their personality. So it can very much just depend on what demon you're interacting with. I just say don't interact with any of them, because really, really, really only like the strongest of spiritual people know what kind of demon is like actually looking to just exist with them versus what demons are looking to fuck with them. Oh boy, demons are such low vibrational frequencies that is how that cowboy spirit was with me. Chills talking about that time in my life. Yeah, low vibrational frequencies. If you ever get like random ear ringings like I do, pay attention to what vibration they're on. If you get a high-pitched ear ringing, that means there's probably something that's above the that's like above it. So like that'd be like a ancestor spirit or a god. If it's a deity, it'll be very, very high pitched. At least that's how it is with Anubis, and Anubis normally is on a lower frequency.
And also maybe like check your ears from time to time.
Yeah, that too. There's a different. You will definitely know when it's tinnitus versus when it's not. I can definitely say that. Bad boy sheriff yeet his last haw. Going back to spirits and ghosts, these are residues of consciousness trapped in a pattern of behavior that was left behind by a soul that no longer inhabits that character. Essentially, yes. It wasn't left behind by a soul. It was left behind by it. To me, from what I have experienced, it is the soul itself that is inhabiting patterns. Now, it's important to note that people can literally create manifestations of other people. That has happened. That's a shadow. But essentially, souls get too attached to things, or they don't fully move on. They invert, and then that's why they become effectively a demon.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I've asked a lot of spirits about Seth. The answer I keep getting is, we don't talk about Bruno. Yeah, I mean, you gotta consider that Seth is a literal deity that governs over all of chaos. A lot of spirits are either going to be rejected consistently by him, or are going to have a lot of confrontation with Seth. So I'm lighting an incense stick a day for Sekhmet. Is she going to help me by throwing me in a situation? Yes. Lighting an incense stick or praying. Just a heads up. Use Egyptian musk. It's something that all Egyptian gods are really fond of. Because sometimes it's kind of hard to fully figure out what kind of incense a deity will specifically like. They'll tell you once you become more well-known working with them. Also, I need to make this clear to anyone who wants to work with a deity. Like, fully, you need an altar. Buy a statue and make an altar. That's the only way a deity will be effectively working with you. You have to have an altar. But yeah, she will likely throw you into a situation, or she'll show up in your dreams.
I mean, I kind of feel like even more so, because that sounds exactly like what a cat would do.
Yeah, yeah, lead you to a
Just like get wrecked.
lead you to like a really bad situation. Be like, you can get yourself out, except a bit more motherly.
You got this. You can do it. Okay, bye.
I've had Ra give me vibes when someone bad is around. I get a foggy feeling on my forehead when someone negative is around. Yeah, that sounds like probably something Ra would do to help remind you to get away from a bad person.
I mean, would that be a Ra thing or would that be a Horus thing now?
Okay, listen, trying to figure out what the Egyptian mythology was doing with those two characters is practically impossible. Those pharaohs were really well known for changing it to give cults more power.
I mean, it's one of the eyes, and that sounds like some sort of intuition or perspective, so that sounds about right.
I will say, I want to vent about this for a second. I always say Anubis is the god of death. He is the god of death. He is the god of the dead. He is the god of dying. He is essentially a version of a Grim Reaper. I hate that the stupid mythology wrote him out of being a god of death and wrote him to just being a god of the dead. And then he was just the god of the underworld. And then that was also given to Ra. Then he was to Osiris. Then he was a god of... he was just a god of embalmment, which then also was given to Osiris. They literally just tried to write the cult of Anubis out of the picture, and we physically can't find any documentation of what actually happened with the cult of Anubis because it was so it was so long ago.
Anubis, aka associate of Osiris.
That wasn't even original. Like, Anubis and Osiris had like no direct connection in the first version of the mythology. It like was all later additions to make Anubis less of a deity and give Osiris all of the power, and that was likely because that was a cult that was more favored by the pharaoh at the time. And also, we forget that, like, in the very original version of the Egyptian mythology, Ra didn't create Earth. Geb created Earth. And then he married his sister, and, yeah, a lot of incest after that. 5 pages of incest later. I found that they do put you through challenges. Seth does that with me. Oh, the ear ringing, I get the higher ringing out of the blue. Yeah, that sometimes is a deity trying to tell you something. Yeah. Seth is very well known for just throwing you into hard situations and just saying, all right, swim and get out. If you die, I'll just save you. Ear ringing is when I move up through the threshold of energy. Yeah, that's incredibly common. I used to have a ton of dreams about tornadoes. Does that mean Seth was stalking me? Wouldn't be out of the blue. Would not be out of the blue if Seth was. You got to kind of think where you were at your time, like where you were at the time of your life when you were getting those dreams. Were you in a bad spot? Were you in a good spot in your life? Did you feel safe and protected, or like what did you feel? Because those dreams can kind of be different signs. So I can't tell you if he was stalking you or not, but it's not out of the blue if he was. Can you meditate for your God that you're working with? You can meditate. Yes, you can. Though what kind of God you're working with will depend on what is the best method of meditating. All gods need to be on higher frequency, so you need to listen to something that brings you up a bit, or think about things that bring you up. But some deities, they may just not really. This old hag has to show up and ruin my freaking podcast. Anyways, they may not show up, and if they don't show up, don't get like discouraged that they didn't, because sometimes they don't have anything to communicate. Um, God's work really, really weird. I'm going to talk about this here in a second. To better get like, that's going to be like our big topic is going to be how God's work, because there's a lot of misconceptions on it. But I really want to answer all these questions before we go into like more in-depth discussion. Hamatu, I have the tornado dreams too, mostly about my childhood home bee. I have tornado dreams still once in a while. Tornadoes, just a heads up, dreaming of tornadoes is also a sign of chaos. That's kind of why it's Seth's thing. I guess I can make a video on what it means to dream of tornadoes next.
I mean, that and, God of the Storm, so
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Amatu, maybe, could be wind or chaos, or you could be subconscious talking to you. Gotta keep in mind, your subconscious will talk to you. Like, if there's a problem in your life, your subconscious is going to make it well known so you can fix it. I don't have tornado dreams anymore. It was really just back in 2017. If you want to know if it was Seth truly reaching out to you, your best bet is to reflect on where you were in your life at that time. Because he might have been reaching out to you, but he may not have wanted to fully make a relationship. Or he might be wanting one now. That's something you're going to have to face. Granted, you can always ask on my comments if you have other questions, but I can't fully answer if a deity wants to work, unfortunately. Each time the tornado was coming to my house, I wake up. Weird thing is, 2019, we had a small tornado touchdown. And guess where it touched down? My childhood home. Yeah, that's,
It's just called,
that's
spicy. It's spicy foreshadowing.
for real.
That's what it is.
It was, I've had dreams that do that, yeah. Anubis is so nice, always on point from my experience, always straighten me out during confusion. So many others that stir the pot, he doesn't do that. Yeah, Anubis is an incredibly straightforward deity. He is not a deity that he doesn't play around. He's if you ask Anubis for a sign and the sign is inconsistent, that is absolutely not Anubis, because he does not give inconsistent signs. He will just flat out tell you as it is. That's something he's always known for. Seth will stir the pot. Bastet will stir the pot. Isis is incredibly straightforward. She will absolutely tell you how it is. But those other deities stir the pot because that's kind of like how they get their messages across. Again, they throw you in tough situations.
So I don't know if this is showing up on the stream or not, but I keep on having you cut in and out every like 20, 30 seconds.
It might just be Discord. Am I cutting out stream? Hey y'all, I'm new here. How is everyone? I am good. We're glad to have you here, Stormy. I'm going to use the bathroom real quick before we get on to a bigger topic to talk about.
Ooh, a bigger topic. Welp, hello stream. No, okay, so it is just the Discord having issues. Cool. Has anyone ever angered a god that they're working with before? Well, me as an sort of kind of ex-Christian, I hope not. That sounds bad. Then again, like, you would think at some point you're gonna do something obnoxious enough to where it is probably gonna happen. I mean, if you try to think of, with your deity of having a relationship, then I would expect it to be, similar with a normal, couple as well. Have your little um, lover quarrels, ups and downs, so to speak. I'm sorry, be right back, I'm doing dishes. I hope you have an amazing time doing your dishes.
Let's see. Okay. I am back. I hope you did not scare my audience away marching.
I hope not too. They pose a question. Has Strawberry said, has anyone ever angered a god they're working with before?
Oh, yes.
Oof.
Yes, I have. I have made Anubis very mad once. One time, back when I first started working with him, I had told him I would give him an offering later that night, and then I never did. And I remember sitting in my bedroom, and for some reason, I kept looking at the altar, and it felt like he was pointing to his bowl, and I had said, I'll give you something later. Excuse me. And then all of the sudden, I get this starving hunger. Like, I am absolutely starving. And that was his way of punishing me for saying I would do an offering, and then completely ignored him despite asking him for assistance. So yes, I have angered Anubis before, and he's not a god you want to make angry. Katie says, I try not to, but I have anger issues, PTSD, so if I start going off, I literally feel the energy that tells me to stop. Does anyone else have that? I've definitely had Seth tell me, like, hey, why don't you shut up and go to bed? I just never listen. Everyone is different, and sometimes my venting, like, my problems to myself is a way to help me cope with whatever I'm going through.
Mm. Yeah, I know with me, I try to make it a goal to never, like, outwardly vent to people in like a negative way. So I tend to have this, especially when I'm like very angry. What I do end up doing is kind of like a coping mechanism. I just kind of freeze.
I know.
I kind of just like stop myself for a moment
I know.
because of the audacity of, you know, some sort of bullshit I'm dealing with. It's a thing. But, you know, what else to do in stressful times?
That's fair. So, the bigger topic I want to talk about. You guys are still free to ask your questions. I just want to let you guys know it might be a second before we get back to them, because we're going to kind of talk about this because I feel like it needs to be talked about. That is how gods work. And Marching, you are free to chime in.
Okay. I'll tell you whenever you're. I'll tell you whenever you're wrong.
Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about quick. We're gonna talk real quick about how gods work. Because there's probably differences in opinions on it. But I'm gonna kind of share my input, my experience. And like everything on my channel, please do not take as law, take as interpretation. You are perfectly free to disagree. You are perfectly free to agree. So, gods don't... People think, and this is only true for some gods, that gods exist to essentially rule humanity. That is why there's a lot of fighting over which god is actually the true god. Muslims think it's Allah. Jews, non-reformed Jews, Orthodox Jews will believe it is Hashem. Christians think it's Yahweh or Jesus or Jehovah, whichever. Japanese mythologies believe it is Izanagi. Different forms of Hindus have their own differences and opinions. Some believe Krishna is the actual god of creation. Hare Krishna is the god of creation. I've heard of many differences and of opinions amongst Hindus. And there's some people who flat out think Gandhi created the universe, which I think is really stupid. But digressing, the thing is that the true creator, I don't believe, is any god that we have. Like the Gnostics said, there is a god of creation, but his existence is much higher than what we are on. And gods do not look to capture human minds. And like I said, that is only true for most gods. There are some gods that do look to capture human minds. We're going to talk a bit about that. But most gods operate with the intention of that they are just here to help, that they like who you are. And because of that, they want to work with you because of who you are as a person. A lot of people think that they are children of specific gods. A lot of people think that they are the reincarnated lover of specific gods. They think that they are born disciples of specific gods. This is not true. You were not made in the image of a god. You were made, and then the god said, I like who you are. And because they like who you are, they wanted to keep working with you. You are what inspires a god to work with you, not the other way around. And because of this, gods sometimes see that people struggle and that people are suffering. And it is up to us as individuals to accept their help or deny it. Really? Every freaking time, Hero Wars ruins it. Now where was I? Thank you, Hero Wars. It is up to us to choose if we would accept their help or reject their help. And because of this, that kind of it's hard to say. But because of this, it's like there is the option of there's the idea of free will. But at the same time, it's more like, damn it, now I lose my freaking place. We have the option to reject or deny a deity's help. And sometimes people think that because it's a deity, they must always be offering you assistance. They must always be offering you help. Because they are a deity, therefore they must be good. And that's, what were you going to say, Marching?
Oh, I wasn't saying anything. Go on.
I heard you breathe loudly. They think that because this is a deity, they must know more about me than I do. Therefore, they're trying to help me. But like I said, not every god is good. We have gods like the Demiurge, who quite literally do look to enslave humanity. That was the entire point of the Demiurge. We have spirit imposters who disguise themselves as gods, but are really just looking to cause mischief. And I could probably think of a handful of gods from other versions of mythologies that don't actually look to provide assistance. Their sole purpose is to cause division. And because of this, it can be difficult for us to have to distinguish, is this a god or is this something imposing itself as a god? That is where that awareness comes into mind. You have to be aware because you have to know, are you working with a god or are you working with something that's just pretending to be? And Christians like to say, I always see this argument with Christians, like, yeah, that's why you always need to be giving your life to Jesus, but that right there, if a deity ever wants you to only work with them in return for something else, that is not a deity. That is a man-made concept, and that is something evil. Stay away from that.
I think that's just called a religion, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Isn't it kind of standard that all religions are like, hey, only listen to what we're telling you and not from anyone
Yeah,
else?
yeah, pretty much. But I mean, like, again, that's why I said it's a man-made concept. And it's important for everybody to realize that no god demands soul worship of them. If you ever have a god that does, that is not a god. That is something you should stay away from. And this is because some gods embody different things, in which some gods are good at helping you with specifics. Other gods are not good at helping you with these specific things. Like, you probably wouldn't want to ask the god Seth for relationship advice because he deals with chaos. And unless you are the problem of the relationship and are causing chaos, he's not going to necessarily point you in the right direction. These gods are associated with specific attributes.
I don't know if I'd say that though. I mean, just because he's the god of chaos doesn't mean that he would give bad relationship advice. Not, saying this not as somebody who has looked to Set for relationship advice, but I mean, there's a place for order and chaos. I mean, mostly anywhere you look. I mean, the whole there is a bad thing about chaos where it can destroy stuff for sure. But there's also something of like a redeeming factor in chaos as well, because the only thing in order to bring something new is that new thing for it to be chaotic. So maybe it's something like new in a relationship that you need to find.
Okay.
And
Like,
get wrecked. You're wronged.
I get your position. My counter to your position though is like you kind of just agreed with my statement though that Seth could help you if you were the problem in the relationship. But if your question is should I go after this person, that's a question that's better answered by Isis or better answered by Sekhmet. Why is my voice suddenly getting so low? What the fuck is happening? Hold on. Is it gone? Okay, it's gone. That was so weird. That was like the most random mucus buildup ever.
Delicious.
Yeah, it was not, but you would rather go to Isis for something like that than Seth because, like, Isis is going to try to. I feel like with Seth, it would be like he would. Isis, I feel like, depending on what you're doing, like why you're struggling, can be better answered by Isis rather than Seth. And I think sometimes gods communicate messages differently, and those differences in communications can lead people to interpret things differently. So gods don't look to grant you all of your desires. They look to help you. That's kind of their point. They're here to assist the world, not shape it in their image. Also, for some reason, funny joke, I always love just like reading like news from like American politics and being like just reading like United States, this is happening and this is happening and this is happening and this is happening, and then like when I go on Google, I just find like an abundance amount of like new Egyptian thing founded. A literal god has been discovered. The literal hearts of pharaohs have been found. We find new historical text of the Egyptian history. Like, there's a lot of shit going on with Egyptian archaeologists right now that is like not actually being talked about in main media. And it's just like the United States is having problems, yeah, but Egypt literally just found like a ton of shit that like almost rewrites parts of history.
Huh.
I know.
That's neat.
Bird Father Ra gave me a humorous curse. My dyslexia was really kicking in there. For being too romantic. I can't reference a thought or an image of him without being stiffy. That might mean Ra might want a sex offering. You never know. Honey's still good in the tomb. Why did scientists taste test? For science, of course. I'm pretty sure I angered Aphrodite by not wanting to work with her, but we talked it over some tea. Just curious if others have done it too. I've kind of done that stuff before. Also, you can ask any Storm. You can ask any question right now. We just got done with our major topic. Seth has said to me, "Lol, when I get angry, it's like calm down and chill type of feeling." Yeah, I've had that with Seth. Seth also wakes me up sometimes. Like I'll be like dozing off in class, and I'll just feel like Seth go, "Wake up." He really wants me to get a hold of my thoughts. Yeah, that is raw, but you gotta remember that sex offerings are a thing, and you might find yourself, you might find him asking for one. I have a whole video on it if you want to check it out. Get him, Gandhi. True God is a nameless, faceless form, one that embodies all things. I agree. Power flickering again. Is it because of the wind, Katie? Like this, the cold. One thing to note: get to know your soul energy and your soul space. If they interfere with the energy and connection in that soul space, be cautious. Yeah, if you feel something directly interfering with your soul, stay away. Like whatever that is, it does not need to be around you. Like spirit imposters love to do stuff like that. I've had too many delusions because of spirit imposters.
Storm, just ask the question. Don't ask permission or whatever to that. Just ask it.
You know what's really weird? There's like a lot of like European mythology with like fairies and like other kinds of stuff. Like the whole origins of pixies and fairies come from European mythology, but has a lot of influence from already pre-existing North mythology stuff. And I just wonder why American doesn't have any mythology. We have no mythology at all.
No, we do.
We do?
Yeah.
Like, okay, not Native American mythology. I'm talking like pre or post Revolutionary War.
Yeah, we totally have that.
What?
Yeah.
What kind of stuff?
Aliens and more recently zombies.
Oh my gosh, is that really all we have for our mythology?
Yeah, because the majority of it has been with Christianity, and then yeah, we kind of abandoned Christianity. America has anyway around the 60s and 70s, and around the 70s, that's when aliens really started to go into motion. And then ever since the recent 2000s, it's been all about zombies.
Huh.
Yeah.
That is hilarious. And I actually remember Japan had a similar idea to zombies. It was like yokai that would come back in like these like possessed corpses essentially. Like the concept like Juwants, the curse is like a concept that effectively Japan had and formed their mythology.
Yeah.
That was basically zombies.
I think what I've read before is that zombies are supposed to be a representation of ideological mass indoctrination, basically.
That makes so much sense. That makes
Yep.
an abundance amount of sense. Holy crap.
Yeah, so like one of the things is that if they get you, then you turn into a zombie, and they're kind of they're kind of like people, but they still aren't. They're definitely not people. They're somewhere between living and dead. And oh geez, what other similarities are there? Um,
It just reminds me of like Christian missionaries trying to convert everybody so that they convert more people. That's like quite literally what it's like with zombies.
Yeah, it can be that, or it's very similar with any sort of political slogan you might get,
Mm-hmm.
or any groups that are kind of extremist in that manner. The Every single talking point is going to be exactly the same, because and the thing what they're doing is they're speaking, but they themselves, they're individuals. They're not speaking individually, they're all saying the exact same thing. And so the thing that's actually speaking is the ideology and not the person.
I see now.
Yeah.
Also, to answer more questions getting asked in the comments, why would gods want you to have sex, and how do you explain that to your partner? Oh boy, sex offerings. Those are very interesting. Sex offerings. I don't personally approve of sex offerings. I don't disagree with people who practice them, and I don't think that they should not practice them, because for some cult, like some people in the Dionysus cult, it's like an absolute requirement to have sex. Some gods absolutely want it mandatory, but they won't reach out to people who additionally are not like those kinds of people. Like those kinds of people exist, and that's fine. But a god's not going to reach out to you if you're not one of those kinds of people. Um, but when it comes to sex offerings, why does a deity want you to have sex with them? It, it's kind of like a sign of dedication. It's like a sign of a very immense amount of appreciation. It's like you're absolutely engrossed with how attractive the god is. It's literally like worshiping both in the sexual and physical way. Again, I have a whole video on sex offerings on my YouTube channel, or on this channel. What's your thoughts, Marching?
So hold on, because this sounds like it's going to be extremely complicated now. Because if okay, so you have a deity,
Mm-hmm.
and you're saying that if they want you to be like worship them and only them, then that's like a really really bad sign that you should stay away. But
Right.
if you want to have like sex with them, then
That
that
is
might be okay.
okay. So that is
And
not what I said.
I mean that I remember earlier you were saying that if you have a deity who does not, who only wants you to worship them and
That is
only them.
not what happens in sex offerings.
Okay, I'm not saying that's what happens in sex offerings, but I'm
Yeah,
saying,
but it's not even what I'm talking about here. Because, like I
okay.
said, it's a sex. Okay, first of
Well, my
all,
question, I'm getting to a question where it's like, it, okay, well, are you still allowed to have like sex with other gods as well?
yes,
Like, and like all gods are gonna have that, where it's you'll have sex with any other god?
some gods may not personally like want to have sex at all, like gods that are well known for chastity, but no god is going to care if you have sex with another deity.
Okay, well, I didn't know if there was any god that would only have want to have sex in like a monogamous
Monogamous
sort
way.
of. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's the confusion.
on my videos on sex offerings, I was literally just about to clarify that point. On my video about sex offerings, I specifically say no god is monogamous. Like that does not make any sense. In terms of the situations with Dionysus and other gods that have like specific like will require sex offerings, it's not to them. They just like you don't have to dedicate a sex offering as in the idea of having sex with them and then relieving yourself, because another form of sex offerings are having sex with somebody else and really really appreciating that person. It's the energy that the god is able to kind of feel. That's what they're wanting. Does it make sense now, Marching?
Oh Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm reading other comments now. Wendigos with deer skulls are a modern Hollywood mythology. Native Wendigos were pale, tall zombies.
Yeah, and I think that's probably where a lot of inspiration for zombies came from, because Native Americans had a lot of similar concepts, like skinwalkers.
Oh my god, the videos that I've seen on TikTok with skinwalkers, there's so many of them.
I genuinely don't think, I think like 95% of them are staged.
Oh no, they completely are. But you just watch it just to like see how kind of like how horror they
Yeah.
can get.
Although I will always stand by the fact that the Appalachian Mountains stay the fuck away, no matter what. I will always stand by that thing as cursed attack. And that
The
it makes sense.
Appalachian Mountain.
The Appalachian Mountains, yeah. It's like it was like in American history, it was like a big place where the Trail of Tears was going on, where a lot of Native Americans were upholded, and they believe it's so possessed and so like ghost infested because effectively so many Native Americans died there and so many of them were cursing the Americans, so it's like a completely cursed land.
I think it's also the other thing is it's also a region like littered with caves. I've seen a map of like missing people cases, and then there was a map next to it with like region of caves, and it's like the majority of it were in the Appalachian Mountains in the U.S.
Yeah, that too.
Crazy.
Yeah, there was a lot of Native Americans. But on to Storm's question, I once, in a very stressful situation back in 2019 and 20, and had a dream where I was in a very Egyptian-like place. Could that have been Duat? Oh. Uh, I need you to describe the place better, because you were either in Duat or you were in what I call the Abyss of Time, which is basically Duat, but it's a different part of Duat. Like, was there deserts? Was there a lot of sand? Was there a golden sun that was reflecting? Were you in a. Did you see parts of your past? Or were you just in what looked like an Egyptian city? Strawberry, don't feel bad about that topic on sex. It's usually some folks I heard don't discuss sex offerings to the deity. I am only spotty with talking about sex offerings. Like, don't feel bad if you ask, because I'll always answer the questions. Sex offerings I don't approve of because of one major reason. Back when I was like dealing with psychosis, I used to give Anubis very frequent sex offerings. The problem is that when you give sex offerings, you're very, very vulnerable. And if you are not mentally well, your like shadows can attack you because like spiritually you're very vulnerable. And it like basically hurt my relationship with Anubis because of all of my insecurities. So that's kind of why I don't approve of sex offerings, because they're not something that you should do when you're not more well versed with what you're working with your deity. And too many people jump on the bandwagon to do them, but they're not actually like experienced to do so. Because, like, Anubis is hot. Big, buff wolf. Or jackal. Or whatever the hundreds of different versions of his depiction is. Yes, it is a sign of devotion. Many of them are in places where Venus energy is not common to come by. Humans have a ton of it. Also, it is in exchange of your consciousness with theirs. It's curiosity about feeling like you. That's definitely. I think that's a very I think that's a very insightful thought. No, I think that's a very insightful take that I think might actually hold a lot of truth. If only we could more effectively know the nature of the deities. But that right there is also why, because you do invite a deity in you to a degree, in more ways than one. And that's also why I think it's important that people don't do sex offerings incredibly frequently. In any case, I enjoy my intimacy with my husband when I have had the opportunity. Seth is weird when it comes to for me with sex offerings because he doesn't like to do them much with me, but when we do things, it's just like it's just really really weird.
Anubis took me to the Duat once, sand that was wet and dry the same time. Oddly, there was a bunker city under the sands.
Very sandy, the sun was very bright, and I was close to home of a type of building. You were in the abyss of time. I guess we're going to take a pause in answering questions to more further talk about the abyss of time. Marching, if you have any thoughts or inputs, you are free to.
I prefer tea over sex anyway. Okay.
I mean,
yeah.
Fair assessment. Personally, I prefer coffee, but so I wanted to make a more in-depth video on it, and I might at some point. So, Duat is hard to describe. There's, I think, many different layers of it, but the two I've encountered, three, I guess, technically, is, I call it the Abyss of Time, and then there's Level Void. These are just my names. Obviously, these are not official names. The Abyss of Time, the many encounters I've had with it.
You should trademark them.
I should put copyright strikes if anyone uses those words. But the Abyss of Time, if you are ever there, you'll know you're there by the sandy deserts. It'll be very sandy. Sometimes you'll notice a golden sun up in the sky. Or you'll be seeing a lot of familiar places. The two things that give the distinct, the two distinct things that you'll know mean you're in the Abyss of Time is a golden sun and you see a familiar place or like a part of your childhood. But the Abyss of Time is a place that people go to when their past is kind of haunting them and they're reflecting on parts of their life. The Abyss of Time is a place where all of time is stored. Every memory of somebody is the grains of sand. When you are walking on the sand, you are walking on people's memories. It's why the desert is infinite. It's very, very infamously long. Human history is all recorded in that place. And if you see familiar places, it means that you are reflecting on a period in your life where you might be being held back by specific things that are holding you back, like things from your childhood or old relationships or old friendships. That is the Abyss of Time. In there, I have seen what I like to call the embodiments of past, present, and future. Present looked like an African woman with like short hair. She was very old. Our future was a very tall African man, and past was like a very short, like kid-looking, like a short white kid. And they address you in a very interesting way. past, they all address you like they're AIs or like they're robots. They'll ask, what would you like to reflect on? What would you like to see? And future can't show you your actual future, but he will show you like specific places that you'll go, because the future is too unset in stone, but there are some things that are for sure going to happen. Present can reflect anything that is going on in your present and can reflect any relationships that are going on in your present. They cannot show you what the person is feeling, but they can show you different parts of those people's lives or people in your present. And past will show you different parts of your life that you can go back on and reflect. And that is what the Abyss of Time kind of does. If you find yourself in the Abyss of Time, also pay attention for an ocean and sand. Because if there is an ocean, why did you come here to ruin this? If you see an ocean in the sand, or like kind of like bordering around where you're at, that's another sign that you're in the Abyss of Time. And from one other encounter I had there, I remember I saw like a tomb of Osiris, and I said, like, I was in the dream and I'm like, this is it. This is how we get to the Abyss of Time. I crack open the tomb and I was like at my old apartment, and it was a very messed up situation, because as I'm in my old apartment, it's like time was going by, but nothing was changing. And I noticed how addicting being in a place like this is, where you're surrounded by everyone and everything that you ever could have. Just like old Egyptian mythology believed that when you would go to Duat, you would have all returned to you. That's what it was like. Everything was returned to me, and nothing had to change, but I saw how addicting a place like that can be. So I like closed the tomb and made sure that no one could ever get back in, or that was what I wanted to do at least, because of how that the nature of that can be to people. That's my second encounter, but those are all the signs of the Abyss of Time. Now, I think that's a section in Duat. I think that's part of Duat. For all I know, it might actually be Duat is the Abyss of Time, because it's effectively an underworld. And I think that people who physically can't move on just go to a place like that. And on top of that, level void, which is what I call it, is, I think, just where, I don't know how it exists. It's just such a low existence. When I went there, not went there, but like the one time I was there in some kind of dream, it's like you could look up at the sky, but it was like pure white. It's like everything there is like incredibly artificial. So that is the Abyss of Time, and that is what I believe Duat is. And those are the kinds of things you can look out to tell if you're in Duat or not. And if you are there, keep in mind, if you are there, that is because there is something you're holding on to. There is something in your past that you are not facing, and you need to face it. Otherwise, you will not leave the Abyss of Time. So that's something I want everyone to know about the Abyss of Time. Do you have anything to say, Marching?
I'll be honest, never had that before. Did you have that in like a dream?
Yeah, I've had like all those were dreams.
Okay. That's very interesting. Because normally, at least whenever I have dreams, it's not apparent whatsoever, like, that these dreams are actually metaphors for other stuff, like with past, present, and future. I guess it's just like something that, if like, did they tell you their past, present, and future, or is it just something that you just like intuitively knew? that's what they represented, which is very interesting.
It was the way that they stood. That's how I kind of knew.
Okay.
Because future was tall, future was tall, past was a child, and then present was like middle-aged woman.
Interesting, because there's kind of like those characters are similar characters are written throughout other mythologies as well. Because what I think the Greek mythology had something. Do you remember in
Kronos.
like those? No, not Kronos. Do you remember like whenever you were watching Hercules, there were like these three really old women with one eye?
Oh yeah, the people who cut the strings.
Yeah, that I think that's very similar to kind of what you were seeing, and also yours kind of rings like mirrors a Christmas Carol almost with past, present, and future.
I know.
Is very very interesting how those things work. But yes, I know that there can be mistakes that have been made in the past, and what I find tends to happen is that if you made like a really not necessarily egregious, maybe more something like where you know about and maybe nobody else knows about, or maybe it was something like embarrassing, and you keep on remembering that over and over and over again, that is your maybe like subconscious trying to have you figure out why you did those things, and try to figure out like why definitely why you shouldn't have done those things for sure. I don't think there's anything else about that I can add.
Okay.
Let's see. Yes, absolutely. There was a big body of water. Oh, the Fates. Yep, it was the Fates.
The Sisters of Fate. There was, gosh, I know Clotho, I think, was one of the names of the Sisters of the Fates.
Yeah. So that's very very interesting. So do you think that if you were following like a Greek deity in that dream, would you have seen the Fates instead of seeing something different?
Probably. I probably would have. Because what I find interesting about some of the adaptations of the Fates, Clotho was like the youngest. Lachesis, I think was her name, was was like the middle child, and then like forgot what's her name was like the oldest, and she was like a very older, like more refined woman. And they were kind of like representing three different points of time. So it's not uncommon that where I was at might actually be like a place that actually exists in some kind of spiritual world, and that was just the Greek interpretation of that place.
And yes, the boat was on an ocean, and the others who were there were from my past, and the gods were in a human form. I was wearing a crown with a scarab on it. Osiris's tomb pointing to your house is interesting. The mediations I've had with him have been very home focused too.
I think it was a sign from Osiris at the time to tell me, like, don't stay here in your past, keep going forward. That's how I took it. I have a question about the vision I had where I was getting Ra's blessing in 2021. I was on a very big boat. And it was towards a sunset. That I don't know. That I have no idea. Dreams are hard. I can't tell people what their dreams are. I can only give my interpretation, but indefinitely it is up to them to interpret it. Yeah, I didn't see any people there. I've read the Egyptian pantheons are groups that run the time matrix up to the upper 40s into 5Ds. I know that's a theory because there's always that theory that the Egyptians knew a lot more about what was going on. But I've also heard them say the same thing about the Mayans, so I inevitably that can be a theory. I don't know how to fully sustain that point though. But it's probably not out of the picture of truth.
Do you have any comments about the person wearing a crown with a scarab on it? And also there were gods there.
I have not got to that part yet. Where is that even? Hold on. I haven't got to that part yet. There we go. Okay. Yes, absolutely. There was a big body of water. Yeah, that's Abyss of Time. And yes, the boat was on an ocean, and others who were there were from my past, and the gods were in human form. I was wearing a crown with a scarab on it. Yeah, I do not know.
How dare.
Well, it's more like
unacceptable.
I mean, it might mean some kind of enlightenment, but don't think enlightenment like you're a god. Just like a congratulations, you're, working on yourself. I don't want to give you like the tarot card reader answer and be like...
It's a participation medal.
Yeah. I don't want to give you like the tarot card reader answer and being like, you're the reincarnation of Cleopatra. You're literally Cleopatra. I hate that every single time. How come everyone's the reincarnation of Cleopatra? Unpopular opinion, the only reincarnation of Cleopatra is Nicki Minaj. I'm convinced. I think that white space you were in was the upper 4Ds. That's the place where people are said to go to get life reviews. It might have been, I always called it like void, because like essentially in that area, it's just like void of a lot. It looks like a void. It's just pure white, and it's just like there were some trees, there was a forest, but you just look up and it's all white and it looks so weird. Osiris's tomb pointing at your house was interesting. Nation with him. Yeah, I'm not sure why though. I'm not sure why Osiris is so home focused, but that might just, gods work differently, I guess. Again, I don't work well, makes sense. Osiris is a god of agriculture. That makes sense. During the time of having that dream, I was in a very abusive relationship with my father and was very scared at that point. That probably makes sense. Trauma and abuse does not go away. Trauma and abuse doesn't go away. It can take a couple of years, and sometimes that can be
a lot more than that. I mean, this is why people get therapy.
Yeah, and if you're having those kinds of dreams, then you might need to see a therapist to have somebody kind of help you work through those problems, because it's probably Anubis trying to show you where your problems are. I'm sorry you went through that storm. I hope you've been in a better place where you are now. I am, although I don't think that was for me. I think that might have been for someone else, but I'm in a better place now. Cleopatra got a reading and said she was Isis. Well, Cleopatra deadass thought she was the reincarnation of Isis, and more power to her. She stuck to it. Oh, yeah. My mom and I live with my grandmother, and she's my favorite person ever. Wish Mike, I could relate. My family just is crazy. It's not a reincarnation. Also, I'm really glad that you've got... Oh, I'm sorry you went through that storm, as in the person, not as in the weather. My bad. Oh, yeah, my mother and I live with my grandmother. She's my favorite person ever. Yeah, I'm glad you've got a good support network. It's not reincarnation. Maybe it's a congratulations. I've been working on myself and overcoming obstacles. That's likely what it is. That's what I would interpret that as.
You leveled up.
You leveled up. Now you gotta get the crown with 2 scrabs.
2 scrubs.
Yeah, the 2 scrabbed crown. I'm gonna use the bathroom real quick. Try not to scare the audience away. We will probably be ending the live stream here in 10 minutes. Just a heads up. Cleo, sweetie. ISIS isn't the one killing her siblings. Wrong God. I've been bullied all my life, and instead of giving up, I got up and fought it in a good way. As long as you didn't, like, really advertisement right now, too. As long as you didn't, like, senselessly beat people to death, I think that's a very good way to handle repercussions of bullying and anger. I'm going to use the bathroom. Be right back.
And yes, I did see a jackal. Yeah, jackals, that's normally just Anubis. At least that's the one I can think of. There's probably other jackal gods out there. Well, while we wait, is there anyone that has any other further questions? Oh, that was quick. Cool.
Dude, oh my gosh. I drank coffee, like, this morning, and, like, it's suddenly wearing off, and I can just, like, feel my body starting to sink. Did see a jackal. Yeah, if you ever see jackals in your dreams, it's most likely Anubis. I'm not ending yet, but I do appreciate all of you guys being out here. It makes me very happy. So, you know Greek deities, right? Do you have a few favorites? Sophia. Really do like Sophia. Dionysus was interesting, the many different depictions of him.
What Greek deity was Sophia?
Wisdom.
Okay, I guess I just don't know that deity off the top of my head.
She's literally from the Gnostic mythology.
Right, but Strawberry was asking about Greek deities.
Yeah. She's a Greek deity.
Not
No.
a Gnostic.
No. She is not from the Gnostic. She's not a Gnostic exclusive god. That's the demiurge.
What's she the daughter of?
She was the embodiment of wisdom. She was created by the creator.
In Greek mythology?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm glad we clarified this. You know, I'm really glad that you guys came out today. Next live, I don't know when that's gonna be. Next month, of course. But sometime. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to talk about before I conclude the live. Marching, do you have any questions?
What is your stance on reincarnation?
I don't know.
That was a very long and dramatic pause.
I
Okay.
don't fully know. I think it's not impossible. In fact, it's probably a very positive outcome. Like, possible outcome that people reincarnate into different lives. Aztecs, I know, believed that. I know. I think Aztecs, pre-Arabic Muslims, all believe that. Africans believed it. Native Americans had a really strong concept of reincarnation, that once you die, the soul would be reincarnated. But I don't know.
And do you think it would be reincarnated into like just different people, or would it be like reincarnated into like plants, animals, insects?
Before I answer that, I'm glad I was able to help you, Strawberry. Again, Aztecs believed, or no, not Aztecs, Mayans believed, based on the karma system, that you could be reincarnated into anything, from pigs to plants. That karma system, unironically, comes from Japanese mythology or Chinese mythology, but so it's like I don't know. I really don't know because it's not an unbelievable system, but I can't say. I can't say. What's chat's thoughts on reincarnation? Also, you want to know something really interesting?
Sure.
Do you want to know where the Aztecs came from?
The Central America.
I mean, essentially. The
Yeah.
Aztecs were once originally the Toltec, and the Toltec come from Indians, like Native Americans, and that migrated to Mexico. And the Toltec were Native Americans, and then the Native Americans were all once originally Chinese. Were all once Asians, and apparently Indians and ancient Chinese, Indians and Asians all share similar DNA strands. So it was believed that they all once came from China. Likely they were clans and groups that were trying to escape the oppressive government, migrated over this way to not have to deal with the oppressive government anymore, which they already believed that Asians had well known about the land over here.
Yeah, and then the strait melted.
Yeah, probably.
They couldn't go back. Yep.
So yeah, I think I actually really like I really like those kinds of that kind of stuff. My grandmother had a dream about her being a child, and she said that she was chopped up to death. Oh, that's horrible. Yeah, I don't know. Reincarnation is just like, it's one of those topics that I don't know enough about, essentially.
Do you want to try to deconstruct one of my dreams, Alec? Sorry, Kemetic monk.
Sure.
Frick.
Sure.
Sorry about that.
You're fine.
Okay. So there was a dream that I had where I was in probably, I think it was like in an old house.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some way that I was able to get I was in the basement,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember there was an opening, and I was able to go further down into a cave, a dimly lit cave.
Mm-hmm.
And then in that dimly lit cave, I kind of saw like what seemed to be ancient, maybe like crosses or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Me being a Christian, that would be like a
Mm-hmm.
symbol I would associate with probably.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of it. That was literally it.
Okay, let me ask a couple questions.
Okay, that's why.
Was this a childhood home?
Oh, I don't remember. I don't remember being a child in the dream. So I want to say no.
Where did you have this dream? Where were you at?
I was. Oh, where was I? I was in college, I think.
Were you when me and you were staying in the same house, or was it when
Yes, that.
was it in the beginning or close to the end of the year?
Um,
Because you were still in college, so
Probably end.
I think I kind of find funny
What?
old crosses in an old house, and look at you, a deconstructed Christian. Old dry winds go by, Gabe, marching.
Okay. I mean, do you think that's what it meant like back then?
I think it was foreshadowing.
Ah, yes, the spicy foreshadowing. Okay, cool.
Because to me, that sounds like, now again, up to my interpretation, but I know me and you were really debating religion around that time. I come out as an omnist, and I start kind of branching away. All throughout my next year, I would really be debating against Christianity, and you kind of started constructing then too. Then when I moved to Chamois, you had a lot more deconstruction. We're questioning some aspects about Christianity, and then now you're kind of like very divided amongst how you feel about it. When I say old dry winds go by, it's basically saying that out with the old and with the new. You might be it might have been a childhood home. You don't always have to be a childhood to be in those things, but to me, ancient old crosses shows more of like it's getting old. It's not the same. It's not new anymore, and now you're kind of starting to see the outdatedness of parts of the beliefs. And I think that might be where, because I know you had a lot of deconstructing ideas around that time. So I think your dream was a foreshadowment of how you were starting to feel about the religion that you were indoctrinated in and told to believe.
Okay. I'll be honest, you were breaking up a lot there, but I'm pretty sure you just kind of, it's the same summary as before, right?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay, cool. I've done a hypnosis for reincarnation, and I'm pretty convinced during World War II I died during the bombing of a port, but missing my family was more important.
Ooh. Also, hello, poor Mina, sweetie. You are a little late because we are close to ending. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Our conversation we were recently on is
Trying to figure out dreams
okay.
and what they
So
mean.
I will just recap what I believe your dream is. I believe your dream was meant to represent how you started to view Christianity.
I'm
Also,
going to interrupt you and say I have another dream for you.
okay, let me interrupt your interruption so I can ask the chat. Uh, am I breaking up on stream? Is my audio cutting out, or is that just on Marching's end?
They already said no earlier.
Okay, so it is
It's
just
just on my
Discord
end.
being shit.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Okay. Also, remember everybody, 500 subscribers. We will be starting an official Discord server. I'm not sure if we're gonna do just Discord. We might do Facebook groups, because why not? So just a heads up with that. It'll be a theology discussion server. It'd be the server where we can all just talk religion and have our kinds of conversations about things. So
Okay, so I keep on having these FNAF dreams
oh my goodness. Okay. I will
where
deconstruct this.
I am this my first dream. My first dream was it was almost like we were in a large, very large room, kind of possibly a movie theater,
Mm-hmm.
and it was super dark,
Mm-hmm.
and there was these three other animatronics, and it was almost like playing a game,
Mm-hmm.
because what was happening was they were all going in like a circle kind of, and so I was also needing to go in a circle to like stay alive,
Mm-hmm.
because if I was too slow then I would get caught up by one of them, and if I was too fast then the other one would like turn around and
Mm-hmm.
like quote unquote get me. Um and that's all I really remember, and I survived, I'm pretty sure. But there's this second dream now that I had like 2 weeks later. And in the second dream, I am still a little kid and I break into an arcade. Don't know why I actually didn't. It was kind of like if I wanted to like either, I don't know, I just broke in because there was nothing else to do, I guess. So I break into this arcade and I see like 3 or 4 animatronics, and I remember one of them was Monty, and I was getting fed up because I didn't want to get like jump scared at all. So I remember what I did as a kid was I like somehow in dream logic forced Monty to like go outside the arcade. And then Monty killed me. But I knew that Monty was going to kill me. So that was my intention, because I was not wanting to get jump scared. So at like any point. So I just wanted to get the scare over with. And then I died and then the dream ended.
Huh.
And then I haven't had any other FNAF dream since. Also, another note, I've had 2 other dreams beforehand that are separate from these, where I fight against like alligators and I win.
So
So
before
that may or may not be some other thing.
before I answer this, Pumina Sweetie wants to know who you are. This is my friend Marching. We've been friends for a couple of years. He's also real big into theology. He's basically my co-host. Today wasn't as big as I was hoping for in some theology questions because we've had a couple like back and forth discussions before, but I'm hoping in the future um, it'll be like last month's where there was like a ton of questions coming. Um, but to answer your question about Anubis's gender, um, Anubis in or Anpu, and then there was Anpui or Anpai. Um, Anubis, I always say, is both in terms of his sex. Gods are not really defined by gender or sex. Any god can really be anything. And with Anubis, he's a both masculine and feminine god because those are also the two different aspects of death. There is the intimidating stare, but also the warm comforting that death has, which is why Anubis embodies both aspects. He is both masculine and feminine because that is the nature of death. And a good example of that is to look at Hel from Norse mythology. She has an intimidating side, but also has a very peaceful and loving side. And other people like that would be like the Morgan or Hades, who also kind of embody those kinds of archetypes. But that's to clarify Anubis's gender. Oh yeah, input. As Strawberry says, it sounds like your FNAF dreams are trying to control a difficult situation and struggling to do so. I mean, it makes sense. Your wife is pregnant, and you've got a lot going on, especially with you planning on moving.
I mean, maybe. I'm just caught off guard with like the FNAF part because
Sometimes,
I like enjoy watching. Like I only watch like theory videos and Markiplier play FNAF, and that's like it. And I'm like decently into it, but I don't like obsess over it. I haven't even watched it in a while. I haven't even watched Help Wanted Part 2 yet, honestly.
so sometimes our minds just do specific things to help convey a message. It may be FNAF, but consider the context of FNAF, especially Help Wanted. You're in a situation where you basically don't have anything to fully defend yourself against the animatronics. You just kind of have to get good at dodging shit.
Just get good. Okay.
But be careful, Gabe, because sometimes things might just kill you. Martin.
Well, sometimes that's the goal, okay?
What's cool to catch alive? Before I end, I want to like make sure I get Pumina's question answered, because I know she wanted to. She showed up late, but she's someone who has showed up a lot in the past, and I'll extend it a bit just to make sure her questions get answered. I've been playing FNAF. Do you know someone finally made like FNAF on a TikTok filter. I couldn't believe it. And someone remade FNAF Plus in Geometry Dash. Just like somebody managed to make Mario Kart in Geometry Dash. I don't even know how those things are possible. Gosh, I think I'm catching a freaking cold. I had made a very silly mistake of gosh dang it. I made a very silly mistake at going outside with no hood, and I think I caught a cold like I knew I was going to, so I might have tempted to go start taking some medication to prevent this from turning into something nasty. Anubis has always struck you as androgynous. Yeah, that's pretty much the case with Anubis. But I am going to end the live here, everybody. It was really nice to get to see you guys. We will be live next month. If you guys do have any more questions, you are free to ask them any video I might have. You're also free to ask them on any posts I make. Even if it's off topic, you don't have to worry about me judging you, because sometimes you guys just have questions and you need a good outlet to ask them. So, with that being said, it was really nice to get to see you guys today.
Oof. And
Uh,
then one last question.
uh, have you ever tried channeling? Yes and no. I used to essentially, but I don't practice it too. I don't try to channel too much now because channeling. I kind of just know Anubis enough to where I don't really have to channel it, and it's kind of like it's weird. It's kind of like Avatar. It's just like the personality. You can just kind of click it with the Avatar state. You just click it, like it's like, oh, I need to act like Anubis in this situation, and then suddenly I can just adjust my personality. So I don't really channel personally, but it's definitely something I can see more beginners to do. Yeah, and everybody, again, I want to thank you guys for coming out. We will be live again next month. Like always, remember 500 subs, and we will be doing a actual Discord server. But other than that, I will see you guys all later. Bye.